Ba 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 doom 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 doom.
Folks, with me today, this is going to be fun, and I love it when these are fun. And I've got probably two of the most fun people for every possible reason under the sun that are with me right now. This is being joined right now, Jeff Manabat from the Kinsey Sicks, as well as Nathan Markin from the Kinsey Sicks.
Hello.
Hi.
And for those who do or don't know, I know your fans know this, but Jeff actually plays Trixie in the Kinsey Sicks, Nathan, who is now playing Winnie in the Kinsey Sicks. And I just have to say that getting into the premise of creation and writing of content, if you haven't seen the Kinsey Sicks, you really got to check these gals out. Musically, they are stunning. Comedically, they are stunning. In social activism, they are stunning and compelling and brilliant. Kinsey Sicks, who is America's favorite Dragapella Beautyshop quartet. And if you love Beautyshop quartet, barbershop, these harmonies are stunning in the true and even more heightened sense of what barbershop quartet can be. But let's go into your backstory, because originally, if you don't mind, wasn't the group started by or co-founded by Ben Schatz? Mm-hmm. Who played Rachel, and he was actually an attorney in civil rights, under the President Clinton administration?
Yeah, he was an advisor to President Clinton for his AIDS policy. Ben was one of the first AIDS activist attorneys in the United States, and played a pretty significant role in ensuring, people got to keep their jobs, keep their insurance, keep their housing, basic needs, while being while struggling to live with HIV, with very limited options and treatment options at the time. So it was, So he did some incredible work that lends itself to terrific stories, which he has plenty. I can tell way better than I certainly can. And that's the original Winnie. Erwin Keller was also an attorney originally. So there were some, heavy hitters involved in that. Smart people with great hearts and questionable talent. And they founded the Kinsey Sicks because it became an outlet for them, and it's a brilliant story it's a common story of how a lot of people can come into drag as really as an escape, and a creative outlet for them to where their legislative work or their policy writing work, it satiated them in certain ways, but being able to make people laugh, and to make ourselves laugh, it was a very different way of changing hearts and minds and creating an outlet for our community at the time. And where it's grown to now is pretty amazing. That we are able to take this legacy and sort of make it our own at this point. And it's big wigs to fill, but we do what we can.
I do want to thank you, Ron, for that incredibly flattering and beautiful opening statement you said about the Kinsey Sicks. And we do appreciate the incredible delusion our fans have about our alleged talents. And it continues to this day, all the way from the 90s. And I'm so excited that we have fans with this kind of delusion about us and disposable income. Otherwise, we wouldn't be around.
Well, that brings us to, disposable income not doing a whole lot of people a whole lot of good when they can't go anywhere and see shows and use them. I know that from our somewhat working a little bit together that your best situation is being in wonderful rooms of about 150 seat capacity, really getting close to your crowds and vice versa. And we're in a very interesting time. There's just not a whole lot of moving around or doing any kind of live shows right about now. But you folks, you've really taken advantage of that. You did something in lockdown, which is amazing. You've got a brand new CD that is released, video content, and you actually put it all together while you were literally hunking down in your respective places. And technologically, you've put it together with a brand new release called Quarantunes. Yes?
That's
Correct.
right. Thank you for mentioning that. When the pandemic hit and we were all being forced to stay home, rightfully so, to protect ourselves and to make sure that our nation, our world can get through this together. We, like many arts organizations this year, were forced to cancel all of our plans. And starting in March, we knew early on that because we weren't going to be working for the year and possibly into 2021, that we had to do something. We couldn't just sit on our laurels and allow our art to be silenced. So instead of just sitting back and letting it happen to us, we thought that we should lean harder into the online sphere. And we started making more music videos, more content for our friends online, and more music. And lo and behold, we started making so much music that we had enough material for an album. And clearly, the title of the album had to be Quarantunes, music made during the quarantine. And we compiled all the new stuff that we're making and some of the unreleased music that we had intended on recording and hadn't had the opportunity to do that. But now we had that opportunity and we ran with it. I think what we've created is really remarkable. We have a slew of new music videos and an entire album that really speaks to our experience this year, ranging from the election to Black Lives Matter to the pandemic, and some, really silly, naughty stuff too. Not everything that we do is completely serious and politically oriented. A lot of our stuff is that, but we also want to have some fun. And I think that part of why the reason audiences glom onto us is because we have this eclectic combination of interests that are housed in this glorious 4-part harmony and high hair and high jinks that people like to experience. And we like to give it to them, It's just a lot of fun.
I love that, high hair and high jinks. So just to get a quick overview of the latest release, and I know people hopefully are going to run right to your site and buy it and keep your stocking stuffed with some kind of working capital this holiday season. Tracks here like Social Distance, Grifters, Scalia, Stormy Daniels, which is sung to the tune of Stormy Weather, Mad Attorney General. I love the fact that what you do is so relevant towards activism and consciousness increasing, which probably started in LGBTQ areas, but the arc of your intelligence is so breakthrough across all of humanity and all of social consciousness. And so you've got two functions here. You've got a writer who's writing content in political awareness, regardless of the spectrum. It's like it's just about consciousness and social activism for everybody. And how did you get that axe into that tree is my question in terms of the writing of this, and who's doing the writing. And then you've got the musical aspect. I mean, somebody has got to take the time to really do musically your arrangements. How do you work that out in terms of who knows who's singing what? And, especially under a lockdown, how do you coordinate all that? So you want to kind of approach some of those two angles?
Those are two great questions, two great angles. The first piece about the writing, we still have Benjamin Schatz, our co-foundress and emeritus Kinsey, around. He retired from performing with us on stage, but has not retired from writing, and he is still our chief writer. So as we've discussed before, he was heavily involved in political activism in the 90s during the height of the AIDS crisis in San Francisco. And activism has always been part of the DNA of the Kinsey Sicks, and it continues to this day. And we are very, very privileged to still have his voice powering the lyrics for the Kinsey Sicks. And he is and will always be someone who is in touch with making the world a better place and being the voice for the voiceless. I think that it's a common mistake for people to think that we only speak to LGBT issues, but we speak to issues that involve oppression of all kinds of groups of people, and making sure that people are aware of that, and housing that in what we think is entertaining. So, as the cliche goes, medicine is easier to swallow with a spoonful of sugar. This is the drag, the music, the comedy, that is all the sugar, and the medicine is the profound lyrics that Ben is able to bring together that speaks to all kinds of issues, from trans rights to Black Lives Matter to what's going on in our politics today. And we're very open to hearing also feedback from our audiences to say, this is the stuff that needs to be spoken about, or what you're talking about isn't exactly kosher with us. You know, there's a way in which there's still also a dialogue with our audience. It's not just, here's our art, go ahead and absorb it. It's, here's our art, we need you to consider this, and we consider the opinions of our audiences as well. So I hope that your listeners will check us out at kinseysicks.com, KNSEYSICKS. All our music, all our videos are there, and you will witness the brilliance of Ben Schatz's writing. He is the main writer for our music, our lyrics, and our scripts. But we also have our own ideas with the current members of the group, and Spencer Brown has also taken up some of the responsibility for writing our new material. As for the music, that's my responsibility. I am the musical director of the group, and yes, someone does have to decide who takes what part, and that's my decision. Mostly, I also am very open to input from the group, but I do write the vocal arrangements for the group, for both the parodies and the original music. For the original music that Ben creates, he is a brilliant songwriter as well, not just the lyrics, but his melodies too. They're so catchy and beautiful, and there's just a wide variety of musical tastes that he is into, and he exports into the world. And I help him shape that music into glorious 4-part harmony. I have a background in music from the University of California at Berkeley, but never did I think that background would be used to create music for a drag a cappella group, and yet here we are. And I'm very pleased that that the group is open to sometimes my zany ideas for arrangements. You know, I took a song from The Police, Every Breath You Take, and the arrangement I made into the parody that we made is about watching YouTube videos, and I made it into a polka. And there's an ABBA song that we made into a different thing. Mamma Mia, which is obviously a beloved pop song, we made into an operatic ballad called Gonorrhea. So there's ways in which I like to play with arrangements so that it's not just a lifting of the or a straight up copy of the original arrangement so that it sounds totally familiar. There's absolutely room for that, but there's also room for making music that sounds fresh, new, like Weird Al. I love how Weird Al sometimes does that.
Well,
too.
you know, I wanted to comment on that because we do have listeners that are fans of traditional and well-executed barbershop quartet. And what I've noticed, because I also have a musical background, is that the way you've orchestrated some of your arrangements for 4 parts, they go into some beautiful, beautiful, very much jazz voicing alternative harmonies, which are really, really intricate. So that's going to be another layer that you bring on top of traditional barbershop with your very much alternative voicing jazz construction of your 4-part harmonies. Now, let me go into this thing because you say you decide the musical arrangements, and that's fine. Who does what in the band? Like, who's taking what general voicing for bass? Who's your tenor? Who's your alto? And who's your soprano?
So in general, we have Winnie on bass, Angel on baritone, and Trampolina on tenor 2, Trixie on tenor 1, or alto. But because the soloists change throughout a show, everyone has to be very flexible with their ability to perform. So even if Winnie is singing a solo, someone else has to take the bass, and it's either Angel or myself. If I'm taking the solo, someone else has to take tenor one or alto. And that's usually Trampolina, but it can also be Winnie, because Nathan has what I think is the widest range in our group. He can hit all the way to a low E and sing higher than me in his falsetto. It's really remarkable.
Oh, is that based upon the pants or the underwear that he's wearing on any given night?
No, it's
Nathan,
just
you'll
lots
have
of
to answer that.
I had that problem for a while when I was running around Brazil, and I thought I had to go see a doctor. And then somebody said, no, just go get a size higher on your underwear. And you know what? It worked.
I don't know what we're talking about at this point. But
So that's interesting. So your flexibility, not only musically, but this is an awful lot to keep a track of. I remember getting into an interview once with the musicians from Queen, and they said it was putting them on the precipice of having to go get into a psychiatric hospital because it was almost like so much to keep track of for their live performance, with all those intricate vocals, having to play those parts. They're literally playing classical music on stage on instruments, let alone instrumentation, let alone their vocals. I could imagine, because again, when fans and new audiences come to see you, and again, just for more information, KinseySicks.com, KinseySicks, not the number 6 as the joke of numbers, but 6 as in, we're all kind of sick here. KinseySicks.com, go check them out. But again, not only are you well constructed in the writing of your music, parodies, the writing of your scripts, but you're also improvisationally very, very good, because when you say we have to change who's taking what vocal part based upon who's doing the solo, and you can do that pretty much, you've got that well rehearsed, I'm sure. But even on stage, improvisationally in comedy, you're very much on fire. You can pick up something in the room and integrate it on site, on stage very quickly. You're all very quick-witted, and no matter what you try, it's funny to the audience. You don't seem to fail very often when you reach for those things.
Well, that's very sweet of you to say. Our shows are pretty scripted, and once we have a feel for the show, we then can make room for the 5th member of the group, which is the audience. And we have our script and our show and our beats we need to hit, and then the songs. But the audience will be, could be its own animal. And we've had very quiet audiences that, it depends on the night of the week, that they're listening intently to everything we say, because the songs, as you note, are incredibly dense, and not just the real heavy patter songs like Mad Attorney General or Get a Gun, but there's a lot of quick references that Ben includes in all of his work, and we try to take that on as we take on more and more writing ourselves. That gives it to multiple listening, and so for the first time, people are just trying to absorb what on earth is happening. They're referencing that. Oh, there's that reference, and there's this little nugget that's tucked in there, and it's really a gem to experience that with the audience. And as things happen with the audience, you got to be on your toes, and we keep each other on our toes as well. We are professionals, but we will, we'll try things on the fly as we go, as to keep everybody going without being too irresponsible, and because nobody likes a loose cannon to perform, but yeah,
unless it's Rachel. Everyone loves Rachel.
You know what? She founded the group, so I guess there's a little bit of leeway there we can afford. Bless her heart.
Ron, I'm glad you mentioned the bit about Queen saying that every performance is like they have to go to a psychiatric ward or see a therapist because there's just so much going on in order to keep things together. The same thing happens with the Kinsey Sicks. We're juggling all kinds of things: music and comedy and a script, the drag itself. Unlike other boy bands, we are also a girl band, so we have to have this incredible costuming involved with our stuff too. And this is when audience see us, and they're not familiar with us, and they see a drag show, they're just going to think, oh, lip syncing drag queens, fun, fun, fun. And there is an art to that. Don't get me wrong. There's definitely an art to that. But our art includes incredibly dense writing in both the music and the script. So we have an incredible juggling act that people are witness to. And I think that's part of the magic, is that people wonder, how is it that we can do that? How is it that these drag queens are able to also be musicians and comedians and social activists and seem to like each other on stage and work well together? You know, an ensemble of drag queens who can perform for an hour and a half without killing each other. Where does that exist?
Well, unless maybe one of you is having a bad hair day.
That's me every night.
That's funny. That is funny. Let's get into the Quarantunes. We're going to listen to a couple of tracks, but before we do, your ability to make fun of society and what's happening in the ever-present moment. You have one track, "Good Ventilation." I obviously, we know where it came from in terms of the parody. Do you want to talk a little bit about Good Ventilation?
It's a great song. It's Ben Schatz penned this a while ago, but he penned it with something in mind, that it would outlast, you know, a specific moment. Because I mean, even once the pandemic itself is under control, it's going to be important to keep, you know, airflow moving and keep, keeping good ventilation as a priority, because everybody likes fresh air. Stagnant air is terrible for any kind of health, either, you know, in a pandemic or outside of it. And so he penned this, and you know, Jeff took to arranging it, and we took to learning it, and we realized what a monumental piece the original Brian Wilson "Good Vibrations" was. I mean, talk about classical music. This thing has literal cuts in it with these 5 different sections that, to analyze it, it's all over the place. So it's a piece. It was a blast to record, and I think Jeff did a wonderful job capturing the fun and wackiness of Brian Wilson's instrumentation, complete with Jeff's own theremin bits that he gets to do in the arrangement. That is just so delicious and fun to do.
Jeff, are you actually playing the theremin on the track?
No, I'm singing as a theremin.
Oh, you're singing as a theremin. Oh, yeah. Great. So not only can you do 54 genders, you can actually get into the technology and play robots and machines as well. Okay.
Well, yeah, power of the human voice to
it's
all kinds of instruments is really a remarkable thing. It is the first instrument and one of the greatest instruments. And I always feel so what is it? Magicalized, enthralled by harmonies. You know, this is something that has been going on for thousands, if not millions of years, that the ability for us to combine our voices and to create something greater than ourselves with just our bodies and the air. It is an incredible experience. And Brian Wilson created a monumentally extravagant, gorgeous, beautiful pop song. No pop song has a right to be this fabulous, this complicated, this intelligent, and yet it exists. It's one of the most brilliant pop songs that has ever been written, and I'm so pleased that we were able to pull it off. You know, Brian Wilson had an army of musicians to work with. We only have 4. So we had to distill his brilliance into a tiny ensemble. And I think we did a wonderful job on that.
Well, we're going to spin it and give a quick listen to it. And then we'll come back and chat a little bit. Good ventilation.
I love the colorful masks you wear. When they're left in sunlight, there's no virus there. When you're inside, please take my word. Open windows when you circulate the air. We good air circulation so we can avoid stagnation. Let's protect our respiration. Fresh air dilutes exhalation. Good, good, good ventilation.
We gotta have air filtration.
Good, good, good ventilation.
Safeguard your inhalation.
Let's talk about Sound of Sirens, also from Quarantunes. You have comments on Sound of Sirens?
Oh gosh, I love that song. Benjamin Schatz, again, our chief lyricist, wrote this in response to the incredible injustice that was happening during both the simultaneous experience of the pandemic and the riots that were happening in the wake of the murder of George Floyd. So there was a need for our group, I think, to be able to express the sorrow of the injustice that was happening. And Ben used the original Simon and Garfunkel as the vehicle for that sentiment. And originally, I was not a fan of the original song. And not because it was bad, but because I just didn't know it very well. And in researching the music so that I can find more inspiration for writing an arrangement, I found that it's a beautiful piece of music. And I wanted to give our own spin to it. I know there's a lot of other covers of the song, but I wanted to make a new version that took advantage of the lyrics, the sentiment. And there's a more sorrowful quality to it that I think comes off from the arrangement. There's a really angry one by a group called Disturbed, which has hundreds of millions of views on YouTube, and that also has a really great take on the original number. But I think ours has it's more melancholy, tearful, heartfelt. Not that the original didn't have that, but I think this one lends itself to the moment.
But these rulers all well know, if we rise up they must go. Hear their lies so they might fool you, inhale their hate so they can rule you. Our backs were stabbed by rulers who saw the light and thought they might make bucks and pounds from silence. But in full churches they still pray to the Chicon God they made. Strong ratings valued over strong warnings. Elections need stock markets performing, but we all pay the price for their profits as written on cemetery walls and tenement halls and wailing in the sound of sirens.
The Sound of Sirens from Quarantunes, the latest release from Kinsey Sicks. And if you want to pick up a copy of the CD, by all means, go to kinseysicks.com. And I'm sure the gals will appreciate it. The Kinsey Sicks, America's favorite Dragapella Beautyshop Quartet, releasing Quarantunes. And as an extra little holiday gift, you folks, you came up with like a little Christmas disc nugget as well. Didn't you come up with yet another little small release just for the holidays? Also?
We did. Everyone deserves a small release during the holidays, don't they?
Yeah, maybe more than one.
Well, in creating all sorts of content, we got rather prolific and found, well, we're going to record these additional holiday songs. You're getting ready, and we initially were just going to release one of our songs, Leslie the Snowman, which is very, very naughty parody. But Jeff came up with the idea, well, we have these other two songs. Why not, make a little why not put them all in a little suite-lit, and so a little album-lit. So we did that, and so we now have Roasted Chestnuts, a 3-track suite that to wet your whistle for the holidays. And it's a nice little bit. We love it.
Folks, just for a little bit of extra holiday cheer, go to visit kinseysicks.com. You can certainly go grab the extra little nugget of the holidays. That's the new release Quarantunes from the Kinsey Sicks. It's available at www.kinseysicks.com, Apple Music, Spotify, Pandora, and of course, Amazon Music. And your suggested retail is about $15, $12 on the digital download. And I think the Kinseys have got some specials for you if you go get it from them at their website. If you're not familiar with them, Billboard Magazine, one of the more uniquely original and thoroughly fun and entertaining acts we have encountered in years. The New York Times, voices sweet as birdsong. And I will give that testimony as well. Featuring the voice talents Spencer Brown, Jeff Manabat, Nathan Markin, J.B. McClendon, written a lot of these stuff. Of course, you all know Benjamin Schatz. This has been really a lot of fun. Nathan.
Thank you, Ron.
Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time to join me. We're gonna go ahead and play this out with a little nugget here from your Christmas release. I want to just thank you for taking the time to be with me here today.
It's
Thanks
our
for having
pleasure.
us, Ron.
I'll stay home for Christmas, nowhere else to be. Can't have shows, and when, who knows, I'll see the other three. Christ must we still sing to? We don't love live streams, so we'll be home this Christmas. 'Cause